reals?
For reals.
Welcome to Roll for Geekiness. I'm Amanda, also known as Villainous by Night on Insta.
And I'm Jonathan of Tigerfire Studio.
And today we're going to be talking about DragonCon, which we have made a video about before. We've been to once before. And this is our update on things that we experienced this time around and some lessons we learned.
Yep. Normally we'd say we just got back from DragonCon, but we did not just get back from DragonCon. Life has been life. So this is still us talking about DragonCon 2024, though. So if you do not know what DragonCon is, we have, as Amanda mentioned, we have been to DragonCon before. Go watch that video in the thing. It's probably right about here, right? Yeah, there you go. And we talk at length about the last time we went to DragonCon, but the
really
short version
over.
is the short version is DragonCon, I believe, describes itself as a multimedia and pop culture event, which is to say that it's sort of a Comic-Con but not a Comic-Con. And that's fair because DragonCon really covers a lot of ground, from comics and anime and gaming and AV, and it's a general geek petri dish, as you've described it in the past. And it's actually, I feel like a really
It's a geek dish.
Ooh, I like that even better. But it is an apt description. There's a lot going on at DragonCon. It was somewhere between 80 and 90,000 people this year, which is definitely up from when we went right after COVID.
We went during an unusual time when there were much more limitations on the number of people they capped it at.
Yes, but that said, I understand that they are continuing to cap attendance, which it's, from my understanding, they were not doing before the pandemic. Now the cap is twice what it was when we went last time, but I believe that is to address complaints that people had of overcrowding and the like just before the pandemic. So that's a useful pivot and an event that was getting too big for its space, which is fascinating because it is an event that takes up 5 hotels and several other buildings in the downtown Peachtree area of Atlanta, Georgia. So this is a big city, some big hotels, and it's also still using some of the America's Mart buildings as well in that space. And it's full. There's a lot of people there. It is not for the faint of heart. That said, I think our capacity, our individual capacity for crowds has definitely gotten better than 3 years ago. So I don't know that we went and said, oh my gosh, like this is insane. I mean, we've been to New York Comic-Con since there, which is even more insane. But it is still one of the largest events. It's a very large event. It's as big as any other Comic-Con. And I'm rambling.
You're not rambling.
So what else? What's next?
So last time we went to a lot of different workshops, and I think both of us were pretty set on trying to get to as many things as possible. I think for a variety of reasons that was extremely tiring and stressful. So this time we went in with the intention of still attending some of those panels and workshops, but really giving ourselves a lot more leeway or freedom to take breaks, go do other things, wander around, try to socialize, etc., etc. And I think that worked out to our benefit. I also think we both went to more entertainment-oriented panels and events this time around than we had last time, which I do think probably makes a difference as well when you're going just to workshops where the orientation might be towards learning some new things. It does become cognitively taxing, I think, by the end of the day.
No, that sums it up. I think we tried to go in going, we're going to be more social and less workshops this year, and I think we achieved that at about 50%. I think we both still went to a few more workshops than, just because those are things that interest us. And I think just like last time, we found them hit or miss. Sometimes the descriptions were maybe indicating that they were going to cover some topics in more depth than they were, or sometimes the presenters may have assumed that there was a base knowledge of the attendees, whether that was correct or not. I definitely experienced the full spectrum there of going in and going, I don't think I came away with very much from this one, to half that was over my head because I don't do that particular technique or work with those particular tools as much as obviously the presenters, but apparently half the people in the panel room as well. That said, we also went to some ones where I think we both just came out going like, that was good. We both came out with an appropriate amount of knowledge from this workshop, and so yeah, like I said, it runs a gamut, and yeah, it did before and it still does. But yeah, your mileage may vary.
And in line with us going to more entertainment-oriented things, we actually did attend both the Friday night cosplay contest and the Sunday masquerade. Was it Sunday?
I don't remember.
Saturday? I don't remember. Whenever the masquerade was, we went to that.
Yeah.
And we hadn't gone to either of those last time around.
No.
That was, I think, a very amusing and worthwhile endeavor. Definitely different vibes on Friday night versus the masquerade, and I appreciated that, right? Friday night does bill itself more as a craftsmanship oriented, or right, more traditional cosplay contest. The masquerade was giving away some prizes like best dance, and
yeah, I think that depends on what you consider a traditional cosplay contest, right? Because if you look at without getting into the history of cosplay,
let's not get into the weeds,
right? Like, yeah, a cosplay contest should involve like a dance or a thing or whatever. So,
I'm not saying it didn't
Friday
have
was craftsmanship, Saturday was a cosplay. There was a costuming contest and there was a cosplay contest. Maybe that's
probably the better way to put it.
Line.
There was a lot of performance involved in the masquerade for the most part. Some people came up with more elaborate performances than others, but almost everyone did some element of performance.
Yeah, there was a skit or a dance or at least some sort of physical routine of some sort. So yeah, I think.
Yes. So the masquerade itself is just, it seemed like more oriented towards anything goes, come on stage, show off your stuff, and if people really like it, the judges or the audience, then you will get recognized and noticed. It was a good time.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of, other special events, obviously DragonCon pulls A-list celebrities and guests like a lot of other huge events like this. So yeah, we definitely, Nathan Fillion talked for an hour about his career, and you listened to Jodie Whittaker, and celebrities are doing panels. They're talking about whatever they want to talk about. They're the celebrities, right? So yeah, that's obviously still a feature of this event, as it was a couple years ago. Go watch that video. Actually, something I did this year that we hadn't done before was go get some signatures of guests. I thought I was going to end up in line a lot longer, based on some other experiences in the past. I don't know, either the line was moving really well or I timed it just right. It seemed like the line was pretty long, but I still got through there in, 20 to 30 minutes.
Quick.
So it was relatively quick to get through and get a signature. Your mileage, again, may vary depending on what time of day.
Yeah, I wonder if that is a good point for us to talk more about things that did feel like they were a little bit different this time around, or that we learned from this process. Is that fair?
Yeah, and you're right, sure. Because in relation to that, you did also learn something very, very important about lines at DragonCon.
Yeah, we can definitely start there. So lines, I'm not going to say are a hoax. I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. And they're kind of a lie. Unless you really want to see someone up close and personal, want to be in one of the front rows, you can show up to an event with a panel that's happening, even a popular one, I'd say within like half an hour beforehand. You could even show up literally right before, depending on how popular you think the panel is going to be. But the ones that are happening in the larger ballrooms do have pretty massive capacity. And I think most people who want to get into panels end up getting into them, even if you show up at the last minute. So if you're okay with sitting in the nosebleed section, right, or the way back of the room, then you can show up whenever you want. If you'd like to get a little bit better seating, I'd say, 45 minutes to an hour beforehand will probably get you somewhere in the middle. If you're really needing to be, like I said, up front, sure, show up several hours beforehand. I think last time we went, we were both very concerned about not being able to get into certain events or not getting seats. And so we definitely showed up probably well in advance of when we needed to. So once again, I feel like your mileage may vary as the disclaimer for all of this. Our experience, particularly my experience this year, was you could show up relatively close to the starting time of a panel and it would not be an issue.
Yeah.
There are some other things we noticed that were different this year or just made a difference in our experience. So hotel location was definitely one of those.
Yeah, I booked our hotel for DragonCon like a year in advance. And while we did not get into one of the host hotels, which is a feat in and of itself, we did have one that was we were at a hotel that was within the convention footprint. And I do think, that was, our experience with that was very different than it was being like even a block to maybe
couple blocks,
a block and a half, whatever. We were relatively close, but outside of that a couple years ago. And the difference in the experience was notable for old fogies like me. I'm sure if you are, in your 20s and healthy and, all that good stuff, like sure, like you can snag a hotel a couple blocks away and hoof it. Or I think there were some shuttles maybe running if you can't hoof it. But yeah, I think it was worthwhile, and the upshot is pay attention to where your hotel is relative to where you expect to be spending the most time at DragonCon, I think, because that made a big difference for me anyway, and I think in general, because especially if you're gonna be heading back to your room for costume changes or to grab a snack or just to get off your feet for a little while and go to someplace quiet. Like being able to just be like, the hotel is not so far away. I'm going to swing over there and spend half an hour doing whatever back at the room. It made a difference for me.
Yeah, it definitely made a difference for me as well. I think we also came to this event with a different plan in terms of food. So we brought some things with us in order to be able to have lunch and not have to fight the food court lines. We also ate dinner a little bit earlier, didn't eat out necessarily every time we were going to dinner or getting dinner. Yeah, I'd say we only ate in the food court a couple times perhaps.
A couple times.
Over the course of 4 days.
Yeah, because as we learned last time, the restaurants in the area aren't taking reservations. Yes. Everyone wants lunch at lunchtime on the food court because that's the most convenient. So yeah, like be mindful of those things. And if you don't want to be waiting in long lines for food, make some other plans. To that end too, I don't know if I remember it from a couple years ago, and maybe again because it was just post-pandemic, but there were a bunch more food trucks in the conventions area this year. And I think we definitely availed ourselves of those once or twice. Just because they were more convenient, the lines were shorter.
It was easy, quick food.
Yeah, easier and quicker than the food court would have been.
Yes.
So just I guess think outside the box in terms of food, maybe.
We realize that not everyone might have the access to or means to bring food along with them. That being said, if you do, it definitely feels worth it from a financial, time-wise perspective to do so. The vendor hall. The vendor hall was a different experience last time we went, and we aren't sure if that was because of just our timing of when we went, if it was because there were half as many people wandering around. We waited much longer in line this time around than last time.
The line was at least twice as long to get into the vendor hall.
Yes.
And we had gone first thing in the morning. We got in line before the vendor hall opened because we're like, all right, yeah, maybe who else is gonna be waiting in line before it's open? Well, a few thousand other people was the answer to that. We also thought maybe we would be able to sneak in a slightly shorter line during the parade. No, the line was pretty absurd, and the vendor space was packed. It definitely is a trip that you want to maximize, because I think unless you've got people that you're gonna, I don't know, just enjoy hanging out with for a few hours in line just to get in every time, I think, yeah,
you go once and you stay there for as long as you can handle or need to in order to get whatever you're looking for, and then you peace out.
yeah. Or maybe you go once early to scout everything out, and then you try to go again once towards the end of the con to pick up anything that's now on sale. But again, your mileage may vary, and how you would like to spend your convention time. If you want to spend it in line to get into the vendor hall because there's a really cool thing that you saw that you can't go home without, then I'm not going to yuck your yum. But yeah.
It is generally a better strategy, though, I feel like, at any convention. Don't assume that the thing you really like is going to be there when you come back tomorrow. Things sell out, and it's probably best to get in there, whatever you really want, get, and the things that you could do without, leave. And that way, if you decide to come back, you won't be heartbroken when something is gone.
Or the things that you forget about by the time you're 3 floors further up in the vendor hall, and you're like, all right, I think I got everything.
Or where was that?
Yeah,
that's always a fun game.
Where did I see that? Oh, that was a cool thing that,
Yeah.
Oh, well.
So, yes, vendor hall, definitely.
Take notes, make a map. I don't know. I mean, yeah.
I personally felt it was worth the trip. However, it is definitely, for myself, I'll speak, it's a one-stop shop. You go, you do what you can, and then you get out of there. I wouldn't want to wait in line for another couple hours to get back in.
No, I think we picked up everything that we needed when we went the once.
Anything else we want to note about this experience that was different from last time around?
No, I was intending to get into more of the gaming events over in the gaming hall, but that didn't happen. So I can't really comment on that still. But yeah, I mean, that's still a whole other building that's dedicated to board gaming, card gaming, role-playing, the whole 9 yards. There's definitely people who go in there for the whole weekend, and we never see them again.
I will say on that gaming note, as someone who does get sometimes not necessarily overwhelmed by the sensory input, but overwhelmed by the number of people that are around me, the fact that they have that pop-up arcade is actually really nice. It's still sensory overload. So if you're looking for a break from things, that's not the place to go. However, if you're looking to get away from... What?
Why'd you mention it?
No, if you're looking to get away from the massive swell of crowds, that actually was relatively not unoccupied. There were definitely people playing the games that were there, and it wasn't crowded. It did not feel crowded. It felt, and it's relatively darkly lit. It's full of arcade games. It felt kind of cozy, and like I could just focus on playing a pinball machine for a little while.
Yeah, it was not obviously not as large, but it certainly wasn't as crowded as, I don't know.
It's not as high traffic.
Atrium.
It's not as high traffic, and I appreciated, that's what I mean by, if you're looking to take a break from noise, just generally speaking, an arcade is not the place for you. If you're looking to get away from massive amounts of people, that might be the place to take a stepping out of the convention. That's my point.
Fair enough.
Okay, I think that's all we had. Yes? Is there anything else?
Before we talk about cosplay?
Oh, sure. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, so if you've been to DragonCon once, or you've even heard anyone talk about DragonCon, probably, you probably know that there's a lot of cosplayers at DragonCon, and I think what was our estimate? Maybe
30 to 40%.
30 to 40%.
I
might go on
50's
the
too
higher
high.
end of that. Yeah, not 50, but yeah, I'd say closer to 40 maybe. A lot of people in cosplay, and again, just as we noted last time, go watch our video. Yeah, it runs the gamut from really casual cosplay to competition ready stuff. Stuff that looks like it stepped right off the movie screen to the weirdest mashup of things you could ever expect to see.
Yes.
And that's one of the beauties of DragonCon, honestly. The creativity that's on display is amazing.
Yes, I will second all of that. I will say it felt like to me too, if we're just talking about general things that were happening at the convention, that the cosplay is always great. It seemed like there were more ribbons happening this time around than there were last time we went. And ribbon culture has grown in many ways. And I think I probably am going to have a love-hate relationship with that part of the convention. I love the idea of ribbons. To each their own. I think for myself personally, I will still probably collect whatever people give me, or I happen to get at certain events. It acts as a nice little timeline for me of things that happened while I was at DragonCon that year. A lot of people collect them for other reasons or specific fandoms, etc. That's totally okay. I just think that's probably not my thing. And
there definitely were a lot more like ribbon meetups on the schedule.
Yeah.
It's people going to basically ribbon swap and try to collect them all, maybe. I don't know. So yeah, if that's your jam, like
ribbons are the Pokemon of DragonCon.
Enjoy it. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's not.
It's not an inaccurate.
Inapt. Yeah. But yeah.
Sorry, that's just something that stood out to me. Like you were saying, the cosplay is amazing. I had more people hand me ribbons, and there were just more ribbons available, even at panels or events we went to. So it felt like something that stood out as being more a part of the culture now than it was even 3 years ago.
The cult of the ribbon has grown. If you really want a better sense of everything that's happening at DragonCon, we definitely discussed that all more in depth 3 years ago. Click the link. I don't know how many times YouTube's going to let me put that up there, so I'm going to keep pointing. And it's just someday I'm going to point. One of these times I'm pointing and there's nothing there, so sorry.
So yeah, still highly recommended. I think depending on your age, your resources, your finances, your capacity for walking around for 4 days, your capacity for high sensory input, everyone's going to have different limits. However, I still found it to be a very enjoyable experience, even with some of those things in the mix.
Indeed, yeah. I think it's still an event that's on our list of ones to return to. Again, whether we get back there every year or not is questionable. It's already not on our list for 2025 because of other plans. But it is tentatively on a list for 2026. So we'll have an update again then, maybe.
Is it time to roll a die?
It is.
Okay.
You gonna roll the die?
Yeah. $13. Hydrate or die straight.
It's good convention advice.
It is. Yeah, solid. All right. Until next time.